the cup.
Oh. All right. Well, happy Friday. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us here live. I am Juliet Abdel, the host for today's segment, which is Health and Wealth, coming to you from the Self-Care Boss, which is myself. I'm very passionate about self-care and why this segment is branded that. Welcome to KUHS Radio and TV. Please make sure, if you haven't already done so, to hit the share button on this video so others in your network can see that we're also live. Maybe you can catch the replay, and feel free to engage with us. We are always welcoming those comments, those remarks, and give us those thumbs up and all those great tools so we can see it on our end as well. Now, today's segment is the first that I'm getting a chance to host here, so I'm very excited for this. I've been in the seat that Sylvia Waller is in today, and so I know how much value that a guest feels being here and being able to talk about themselves. But Sylvia, I'm very excited to have you on here with me.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for asking.
Yes. Now, I have had the unique opportunity of getting to know you. It's been nearly 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah. 2020 is
Isn't
when
that crazy?
Yeah, I know.
Time has flown by. So 3 years ago, and it was through the Miss Colorado for America system that's here across the state of Colorado. But before we really delve into kind of pageantry, a little bit about your journey in that, our topic today is really about aging gracefully, which is a motto that you embody beautifully, but it's a motto that you live by. And so I want folks to first know, who is Sylvia Waller? So let's give them a, tell me about yourself. And I know you've had this question before. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm a mother of 4 adult children. We have a blended family, and I'm also an only child. So my health journey started with my dad having dementia, and being an only child, I'm the only person there for him. So while taking care of him, my health started to fade, and our family has a history of diabetes and high blood pressure. Yeah. So while taking care of my dad, I was stressed taking care of 2 homes and then trying to figure out what was going on with him. My health started to fade, and my doctor said I needed to take control of my own health. Yeah. And that is when I decided to change my diet and just change the way I thought about things, get rid of some of my stressors, and how I thought about life, and not stress over small things. And my sugar level came down, my pressure came down. So I took control of my health at that point, and that was my starting point. And I believe that's when I started understanding the beauty in aging gracefully. I've seen my family. We're from Louisiana, so my roots are sugar and smothered in butter. Everything is covered in sauces, and that's how I ate as a child. Yeah. And so now I understand why my relatives have diabetes, have heart disease, have high blood pressure, because of the way we eat. Yeah. I decided to make that change. Now, they aged pretty gracefully, but there was a point where they just really died. Yeah, because their health just soared. And I'm at the age where I just don't want that. So I said I was going to take control of it, and in the process, I did a fitness competition. Yeah. Which I'll never do again. But
you did, and you can speak to that and say, like, here's a goal that you set and that you achieved. And when was that for you with your father? I mean, how old, and you don't need to tell me, like your age, but what season of life, was that like, you just got done with college, then this happened with your father? Was it, at a midway point in your life that you really made this change mentally for your health?
No, it was later in life. It was on the backside of life. So I'm in the next chapter, and, I'm 62, I don't mind. It is what it is. But when I started to see my health take a change, I was in my late 50s. Wow. And I can remember pregnant as with my 2 children, I had gestational. And my doctor told me when I started entering into my 60s and older that I had a high risk of diabetes because one, of the family history, and 2, because of my gestational with pregnancy. That just told him that I could not handle a lot of weight.
Right.
So for me, that was you know, the lights came on.
Yeah.
Because I saw my parents, both my mother passed from cancer. She had breast cancer, and my dad had dementia. And I just, while I'm here, I want to be healthy. So for me, my health is my wealth. You know, I just want to be healthy and vibrant while I'm here. And I'm doing everything that I can to make that happen. It's not an easy journey because when you get to be a certain age, your body is vintaged, you know, so your parts are not as strong.
And you're stuck in your own ways, right? Like you have these decades of doing this over and over again, and as you shared earlier, you know, your whole family had this kind of approach to nutrition and what you ate and the mindset, right? Yeah. And so it was inherited, but then it was processed over the years, and to try and undo that takes so much effort.
Yeah, it does. And I'm very in tune with my body. So when I feel a little bit unstable, like something just doesn't feel right, I know something's not right. And I have a blood pressure machine. You know, you're getting old when you have one of those.
Girl, I travel with mine.
So I have one of those, and if I have a headache, you know, this certain kind of headache, I go, okay, my blood pressure might be high, and I monitor it. So then I go down the list. Did I drink enough water? Have I eaten too much salt? You know, so I know how to monitor my body and just at least take care of the things that I can take care of, and then the rest is up to our Lord and Savior. You know, when it's my time, it's my time.
Right.
You know.
Right. So. But you know, you can't control the time, and you and I agree spiritually on a lot of things, right? And so you can't really control that part, but you can control the journey until you get there, and it definitely you don't want it to be an ailing one. Right. Right.
Right.
So you entered. The first thing that you did was enter a fitness competition. How did that sprout in your mind? Were you just, you know,
furthest thing from my mind?
Right.
Well, the person that I went to was a friend of mine, and she happened to be a trainer for bodybuilders. So her name is Renee Paul, and she says, well, I'm going to help you lose weight, and I'm going to put you in a bodybuilding contest. And I laughed, because I thought, oh, yeah, right. And she says, no, I'm serious. So we prepped for a year. You know, she had to get me out of my bad habits.
Yes.
And then once she got me out of my bad habits, she taught me how to eat for purpose, which that's a lifelong lesson that I took from that. Yeah. So I now eat for purpose. I still eat some of the foods that I'm used to, you know, the comfort foods. What do you mean you know? but I eat them sparingly. So I eat them, and I look at it as a treat now. I can't eat it every day. Yeah. But I learn to eat certain things for purpose, and some things I know I cannot eat. For example, I love fried yams. So our family, we fry yams, and it's just so not healthy. Yeah. It's they're fried in butter, and then you put like 1.5 cups of sugar, let that get really sticky, and then you pour some water and vanilla in it, and it's like
this
candied yam.
Like,
oh, it's just delicious, but it's just so unhealthy. Right. And as a child, we ate those a couple times a week.
Right, all the time.
But I can't do it. I make them at holidays, so Thanksgiving and sometimes Christmas.
One time a year instead of once a week.
I don't feel good when afterwards because my body's not used to it.
And I think that's the biggest thing, you know, and we share so much in our health journeys. And one of those is this, you know, when people ask, sometimes they'll ask you, right, it's all you're going to have, or like, you don't want these added things. And you're like, you know, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, it's not about weight loss, one.
Right. It's about feeling good.
Feeling good. I
Yeah.
don't want to, you know, I love pizza, and that was for us 2 or 3 times a week on top of whatever my mom gave me, which was a lot of food. Right, I was a 13-pound baby for a reason. So, but to think about even eating that, you know, I hesitate, because then I think, okay, afterward, how's that going to make me feel?
Yeah.
So this fitness competition you went into, after a year of training, after you started changing things up, did you place? Did you take something out of it that you felt was?
I placed. Funny story. I placed 3rd, and my trainer said, "Hey, we qualified for nationals."
Oh.
And she was all excited, and I was like, I just want to eat.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't want to go to nationals. I don't want to do this ever again.
Yeah.
I just want to eat something.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So that was not my thing. I reached my goal, lost the weight. I felt better, and I took away those great little nuggets on eating for purpose.
Yes.
But I do not ever want to do another fitness competition ever again.
Yeah.
It is so hard, but I think it also helped me get through my father's funeral, because my dad died 2 weeks before my competition.
Oh my goodness.
And I almost, bowed out, and my trainer said, "You worked too hard."
Right.
So she says, "Just do what you can." And I, in the process of making plans for 2 services, I took my dad home to Louisiana, and then we had a service here, and I had to plan both. And just imagine doing your parents' obituary, and just writing all of that. And I think with me getting prepared for the competition, it helped me to control something. So I had control of that, and I was in the zone. And I can remember my sons, we went to the IHOP, and my cousin was going to help me stay on track. So he's also a trainer. So he prepared all my food. And I was sitting in IHOP with fish and oatmeal, and my family was eating pancakes.
Oh, IHOP is your best friend for getting healthy things off the menu. It really is.
No, I had my own.
Yeah. Oh, well, nowadays they will. So I go to the senior, the senior section. Where apparently that's the only time that you're supposed to eat healthy. And then I pick from that menu, and they have vegetable and, just grilled items that are there, chicken and fish. That's why I was like, oh,
we have to
eat.
We have to eat better. We can't do the cheating thing.
Right.
We have to.
You have to stick to that type of diet.
We have to stick to it.
So fitness, the fitness competition wasn't something that you loved, right? But you still did it, and you achieved it, which was an awesome goal to embrace. But the funny thing is sometimes there's this crossover between pageants and fitness, and whether it's pageant girls and women that have competed and then they go into fitness industry, or they've been in fitness and they cross over into pageantry, and you were kind of the latter. So after your fitness journey, how did you and why did you decide to go into pageants after that? Was that to maintain that healthy streak, or was there another reason?
No, it was. When I was asked, someone had taught me on Facebook and saw some of the work I was doing with the Alzheimer's Association. And, she said, "Hey, have you ever thought about pageantry?" And I'm like, no. It was the furthest thing from my mind, So I remember my husband saying to me, I told my husband, I said, someone reached out to me on Facebook and said, "Have you ever thought about pageantry?" And I laughed.
Yeah. And
he said, "So what's funny about that?" And I said, "I don't look like a pageant girl." And I was serious. I said, and he said, "Well, what does that look like?" And the first thing that came out of my mouth was, someone that's lighter skinned and long flowy hair. I said, "I'm short, dark, short hair, and it's gray, and I'm old." And so he said to me, "Well, go change it." I don't really think he thought I would do it. Yeah. And I thought about it, and I said, "You know what? Maybe I will."
Yeah.
So that journey for me was a way for me to dig deep and find out who Sylvia is.
Yeah.
Because when you enter a pageant, you have to know who are you? Why are you here? What is your purpose? What do you want to represent? What is your brand? You have to think about those things. So it makes you dig deep.
Yeah.
And that is where the embrace your own uniqueness came in, because, you know, obviously I was in my 60s. I was 60 actually. And these women were my kids' age.
Mm-hmm.
So
such a wide spectrum too,
yeah.
of people in different phases of life
Of
that they're in.
exactly.
Too. And you don't notice that, right? When you're watching the regular pageants that air or wherever else, like you have this one perspective of it, and then you get in there and you're like, they're so diverse.
They're so very diverse.
Experiences and their age and their just why they're even there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're not secure in yourself, you can get lost.
Oh yes.
And it's really important that you don't compare yourself, because you can only be the best you that you can be. You can't be anyone else but you. And until you understand that, until you understand who you are and embrace that, you know, God created us fearfully and wonderfully, and we're all intently and purposely made, you know, so we have a purpose.
Yeah.
And until you understand that, you are going to bounce and just go with the wind. If there's a pretty woman in the room, her confidence and her beauty intimidates your insecurity,
yes,
you know,
totally.
and so then you're like, you know, you fall apart because you don't have the security in yourself. And as women, we should be able to give each other compliments and lift each other up and not be insecure when someone that's gorgeous walks in the room, you know?
Totally.
So yeah, and I always feel like when a person, when you start getting, for lack of a better term, stank face, it's, you know, it's because that person is broken and they're not secure in themselves. So when someone else comes in and that confidence just, you know, disrupts their insecurities.
So you, the steak face, that cracked me up. I love how supportive your husband and really motivational he has been throughout this journey, and the reason for going in and making that change happen. But the first time that you went through, you won an award, and it was again in fitness. And that was because you maintained your fitness level, and also, what were the other factors? Do you know? Because you were beautiful on stage. That too, because you are.
Well, I think it was more your, I don't want to say chisel, but your the physique. You know, can you see the muscles?
Yes.
And I that was part of the reason. And then the other part was age. You know, I was 60, and thank you to Jess Hogue. He worked me and, you know, got me in shape, and I got into the shape of my life. I was even in better shape than I was during the fitness competition. Because the fitness competition, I basically lost weight, and I was building muscle, but I hadn't completely developed the muscles. When I got to Mrs. American, I had developed those muscles. And when I look back at the pictures, I miss those days. Because, you know, if you don't use it, you lose it.
It's true, but it's always there. So once
it's
you
under
get
the fluff.
yeah,
it's under the
well,
fluff.
exactly. Once you get started back, then
Yeah.
it slowly starts showing back up, right?
Yeah.
Like it's at least always there and everything. So
Well, the thing about it is, you know, that was 2021, and then 2022, life hit, and arthritis hit and struck, and I ended up having to get a hip replacement. But, you know, praise God, he got me ready in 8 weeks, I believe it was. So 8 weeks after my hip replacement, I was in Vegas.
oh my gosh, and that's another chapter that I do want to delve into and talk about all of that experience. Before I let the fitness part go, and this is because, you know, there's so much controversy, right? Always around fitness and always around swimsuit and wearing it. What do you say to those folks that will speak up and say, you know, it's a patriarchal type of industry, and that women have to go out and display themselves in these, swimsuits or parade themselves in there, this and that. How do you speak to that type of pushback, or the feeling that might not necessarily be an empowering thing to see another woman on stage doing that?
Well, I think for me, I believe it's empowering because a woman that does that is very secure in herself. She embodies and embraces her own beautiful, uniqueness. Not everyone's a size 2, So I admire women in general who feel so confident in themselves that they can go out and put on a swimsuit. There is nothing wrong with putting on a swimsuit, especially when women feel comfortable in it and they feel beautiful in it. And for those people who feel like pageantry is antiquated, it's empowering, and it's more than the crown. So pageantry is more about community, and once you win that crown, your job is to go out and influence and be that person who encourages people out in the community. So your job is to get out in the community and uplift, empower, and whatever, and inspire in whatever area you chose. Like mine was Alzheimer's, but I also speak with young women on just being comfortable in their own skin, and that's important because our young people need that guidance, because there's so much that says beauty's supposed to look like this, and who are they? Beauty is subjective, and it's not a physical thing. Totally, it's embodied in a fruitful heart, which permeates the outside, and then the fruitful heart is love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness. Those things that a person embodies, that permeates on the outside, and that is what beauty is, because that beauty never fades.
Oh yeah, everything else can kind of go to hell in a handbasket.
Exactly.
But that will remain.
That will remain.
You said something that actually was very poignant, and I'm going back to it because we were talking about not everyone being a size 2, and it was like, oh, well, you know what? Part of it too is that they probably only see on TV the ones that have been selected out of everyone, right? And they don't get the process. Like, they don't get that. When you said Vegas, this was national, so you were going against women from all over the U.S. But that was after you competed here. You competed locally, and that year, how many did you have? Over 30?
I think there were
women?
34 women in April of last year.
Right. So 34 women that you competed against in all those other criteria, not just the fitness, and that you were selected from, and then you progressed. So someone can easily just look at Sylvia and be like, oh, you have to be chiseled, you have to be like this in order to get on there. You're like, there's so many other things that played into that. So your first time was in 2021, and you held a national title that you then went to a nationals with, and then you threw your hat back in. What was the why behind that? And what were the differences between the two things that you have been, so I guess between the last title that you're holding and the one that you're holding today?
Well, the competitive side of me, I can remember after I finished at nationals, I had a conversation with our director, Emily Stark, and she kind of said, well, you can do this again. And that it sparked something in me, and that competitive side said, really? Because I was technically first runner-up, so Nicole Cudney was Mrs. Colorado, and I was technically first runner-up as Mrs. Colorado American. So the fact that I was first runner-up and I had another opportunity, that competitive side of me wanted to see, can I go and clinch it and win it the next time? So that's what I did. And it wasn't, the health side of me kicked in, the health hindrance. It kicked in then, because that's when arthritis really set in, and I had family and friends telling me, why don't you wait? You know, you're in a lot of pain, and you know, I don't know if you can really do this. So there was a lot of doubters.
Oh my goodness.
And I remember saying, I felt like Cinderella, and that the clock was 11:59,
yeah.
and if I was going to do it, I had to do it then. And Jess and my physical therapist worked with me, because there were times where, you know, my hip just wouldn't allow me to do anything. And then, of course, so my hip was hurting, so I concentrated on the upper body, and then I tore one of my ligaments in my labrum, doing, you know, upper body.
Labrum in your arm?
In my shoulder.
In your shoulder.
And so then I was like, you know, a limp chicken. And so I had to work around all of that.
You can't tell, you need a lot of personality for this.
And I had to work around it, and then there was a lot of prayers, and then a lot of, what are we doing? And then I just got to do it. I just want to see. And, you know, when I won, I really, you know, for those of you who don't believe in the power of prayer and the power of God, I mean, I have no other explanation, because I know how much pain I was in, and I didn't know what my facial expressions looked like, because I was in pain. And I do remember praying while I was standing there, and when I won, I really felt like that was God telling me, you know, okay, we got your steps are ordered. You have a purpose. I have a purpose for you. And so 2 weeks after that, I had my surgery, and then going to nationals was a little different this time. You know, you have different personalities, and it was kind of a different setting, but I had just as much fun, because you know, you make the most out of it. And I had a lot of the ladies had followed my journey, you know, with rehabilitation, and they were so supportive. And what really made my heart warm was the majority of them would say to me, you know, there's something about you that just draws me to you, and you know, if of course we all want to win, that's why we're here, but they would say things like, well, if I don't win, you're my woman, you know, you're the person, I hope you win. And I had that rallying around me, you know, and it was beautiful. And even to this day, I still keep in touch with a lot of the women across
that
you know, the country.
And both years that you went to nationals, you placed.
Yeah, I placed top 15. This year, I was very disappointed, because you know, you have
self-imposed expectations.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was disappointed I didn't make the top 6, because I had made the top 15 the first time. Yeah. So you know, you want to go and do a little better. And so, you know, it really affected me, because I kept saying, if I just held on, because I was in a lot of pain. And Emily mentioned to me, she said, I kept my eye on you, and I could see that you were struggling. And she said, a person who didn't know you wouldn't know, but we kept our eye on you, and we could see you were struggling, because standing on the one leg was really tough.
And there's a lot of standing. So what people don't see is that whole week that you're out there.
10 days.
Yeah, it's a lot of standing.
And by pageant day, my body was tired, and I was kind of over it. You know, I just kind of had that, well, let's do this, because my body hurt. And we did. You know, I did the Chicago. I danced in heels. And I did it. And I was proud of that. Because that took a lot, you know. And I just kind of sucked up the pain and just did it. But it was a lot to endure for the day, for the whole day. The pageant day was long. It started at 7 a.m. and you know, so, but, you know, I look at that, and for a long time, you know, I went into, there was this thing called pageant hangover.
Yeah, so let's tell folks what that is, right? Like, are you getting blushed right after competition? And then you're waking up with, you know, you don't know where the crown went or the sash, or is there more to that?
Well, pageant hangover is like the whole, you have 10 days of like, go, 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 Tammy Faye lashes, makeup is thick, you can cut it off, you know, you're just like made up constantly for 10 days. And there's a lot of rush that's in that, you know, your adrenaline's going and everything's exciting, and then pageant day hits and it's over, and even I imagine even if you win, you're gonna have pageant hangover, because it's like whoosh, you know, like all of a sudden everything's done. And but for the majority of the women, you wake up the next morning and it's like, so what's next? And all that energy that you put in for the whole week, it's just, you realize I am totally depleted. And depending on how you feel, how you did, you could either go into depression, or you could go into, well, what's left and what do I do now? And you really have to have a plan and have to know pageantry was not who I am.
Yeah, it wasn't the end all.
Yeah, you know, one, you're still Mrs. Colorado, so you still have a reign to fill, and you still have a life. You know, it was just a part of your life. And I look at it as, it created a brand. So, you know, I have a brand, and now what do I do with that brand going forward? You know, how do I continue that brand? So for me, Mrs. Colorado 2022 is a woman who tries to age gracefully and wants the world to age gracefully, and wants women to embrace their uniqueness and not feel intimidated by other women, but embrace your own and feel comfortable and walk in your own truth with confidence.
And there's actually, that I thought of you the other day, because there was another actress, and she had posted about, you know, I hate the term anti-aging.
Oh, I hate that term.
And and it was, I mean, I was like, she must have spoken to Sylvia, because this is verbatim about how, you know, you're embracing where you're at, where you're heading, and with open arms, and it's a different mindset than, you know, it's a bad thing to age. We all are going to, right? So it's, how do you handle that before it happens, right? So, competition week, leading up to prep, are you starving yourself? Are you?
Of course not.
Okay.
You know that.
I do know that. I do know that, but the viewers don't know that. So, you know, again, when they think about hitting your weight goals or hitting your weight loss, right? That the common assumption is that you're cutting back and you're not eating as much. And
well, the goal is to, you know, do all that prep before. So you prep and you do it evenly so that you're not starving yourself. You know, but you're working out, you're cutting back on the things that will, you know, prevent you from reaching your goal. But pageant weekend or pageant week, you don't want to starve yourself, because one, your adrenaline's going, two, you need nutrition, and three, you know, you're burning calories even though you don't realize it. So, but on the other hand, don't indulge. Like the difference here, the difference this year or last year than 2021 when we went was, remember, we had packaged meals every day. I was so sick of chicken wraps, I could just, you know, I didn't even want it. So I actually lost weight during that week.
It wasn't because I was going around slapping any cookies that I saw.
No, it wasn't that. Because I found a way to eat them anyway.
You did.
But this year, I felt like, what are they trying to do? Fatten us up? Because we had a bar. we had, I mean, every meal was a smorgasbord.
Yeah.
And, you
so
know.
it was kind of a COVID versus a non-COVID year is what it sounds like, because.
And it was awesome this time. And if you are not careful or disciplined, you could blow up that week. Yeah. Because you had like, we would have like 4 different types of desserts.
Wow.
To pick from, you know, spread out.
Yeah.
And then one day I was looking and I said, why would they serve us rice and pasta? That's 2 carbs. You know, that's a person who is fitness trained.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm looking at it going, we have tons of carbs here. You've got women who are trying to get into a gown. Yeah. Why are you serving us so many carbs? So that's how I thought. But if you're a person who really, you know, don't eat for purpose, you might eat all of that, and then you can't get in your dress. So your ultimate goal, you got to get in that dress.
Yeah.
So you got to remember that. Yeah, but there was a huge difference from COVID. Yeah. You know, pageantry, and then post-COVID. Yeah,
for sure. Difference. Yeah, that's so funny to hear that. That's crazy. Why are they giving us all these carbs? That is hilarious. So you came back, you had your hangover, and then you awoke from it, and what has your reign continued to look like, or how long do you have left in this position, and what do you intend on doing around your efforts of raising awareness of, you know, of course the Alzheimer's Association, we spoke about that a little bit earlier, and kind of the healthy lifestyle and aging gracefully.
Well, I will continue to work with the Alzheimer's Association. As a matter of fact, I'm going to a Alzheimer's Summit at the end of this month. Okay. They are sending me there, so that's awesome. And we'll learn how to get the community more involved and raising awareness, because that's where my expertise comes in. It's just, you know, raising awareness and getting people involved in the community and understanding the importance of a healthy lifestyle, diet, and exercise. So my angle is the healthy living and the connection to healthy living and a healthy body and a healthy brain. So because of my interest in my own health, that's where I thrive. So, I also want to stay connected with our youth. So I'm starting a new venture. Okay. And that is princess parties, princess etiquette parties rather. Yeah. And with that, I you know, will teach our young women, the little girls as well as the teens and the young women, table etiquette, social etiquette. We'll do fun games on, you know, just how important it is to be comfortable with ourselves and know that we are queens. We are queens. Not to be a bratty princess, but just be confident in your own skin and to know that you are empowered. And I like to teach the little ones that their fruitful heart is their superpowers. So, you know, love is your superpower. Kindness is your superpower. And so, you know, I enjoy that. It started out with a friend from high school. Her granddaughter was coming in, and she wanted me to come to her princess, her little tea party. So I came with my tiara, and she bought petite tiaras for them. Oh, that's cute. And we had so that's where it was born. And I said, oh, this is really sweet. So I'll continue doing that, and of course I'll continue doing makeup. So I'll put more time into my freelance makeup.
So this isn't your career?
No.
So you're doing in addition to what you do on a daily basis. So let's tell people, what do you do on a daily basis? Is this a paid gig? Is it not paid? How many hours do you spend towards being Mrs. Colorado?
You know, I don't spend a lot of hours doing that. I mean, it comes and goes where, you know, I make appearances here and there. For me, like at you know, there are certain places where I'm just Sylvia. People know that I'm Mrs. Colorado, but there's that side of me that, I don't know, that humility side of me that says, you don't have to do all that. You know, you know, just help out, but help out as Sylvia. I don't always have to go as Mrs.
Your
Colorado.
title, right? Yeah.
So, you know, I don't do a lot as Mrs. Colorado, so, because I'm Sylvia either way.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then you are a makeup artist outside of this. Yeah.
I'm a makeup artist. Right now I am working with doing my own things on the side under Beauty Run Skin Deep. And then I also work with blush, and I also work with Bobby Brown Cosmetics. I freelance for them. And I freelance for Tom Ford at Nordstrom's. So, but retail side, you know, it's a lot of standing. And with my surgery, I really haven't been able to stand for, you know, a long period of time. And when you're doing retail, it's 6 hours at least. You're just standing. And I helped out this holiday, and I realized that's tough for me. Yeah. So it was
that
a
was
little
a
painful.
past season. Yeah, I feel like you know, you're okay doing certain things in different times, certain points in your life, and
So
what you're willing to tolerate. You know, and I don't necessarily think it's even an age thing. I just think, you know, there's some things that you'd be willing to take on, and then you just get to a point where you're past that a little bit. Yeah,
and I think my body's past that. So, you know, just working, doing makeup, you know, for events, doing makeup for blush for events is something that I will continue, and then just kind of hustling and being retired. I'm semi-retired.
Yeah, I can't imagine that you'll be ever fully, or hopefully you won't before.
No,
I mean, you gotta keep on going.
Yeah, because when you don't do, you start deteriorating.
That is true.
Yeah.
That's what happens. It's like the muscles we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You let them go, and they kind of go away.
And they go away. I gotta get my guns back. My guns are starting to.
I tell you, I went back to the gym the other day. It's been a few months. I went back to the gym, and I'm in so much pain. I can't even stretch out my bicep. I lifted a little too heavy there. For those beginners that don't know where to start in the health journey, what would you recommend? So you mentioned you started before you entered the fitness competition. You had found a trainer, or was that someone that you saw on your own? Did you go to a gym and then someone was like, "Hey, you should get with a trainer"? Do you need a trainer to stay healthy? It depends on what you want. Is that?
She was a friend of mine, so we go back when I first joined 24 Hours. She was assigned to me, and then we just became good friends, and that was back in 2000. So it's been a long time.
It's been a while. Yeah.
So, you know, Renee is a good friend of mine. But if you're a beginner, it depends on what your goal is. If you struggle with, how do I get started? I want to get stronger, or I want to sculpt, then I would get a trainer and let that trainer help you at least get started on your process, because there are things like age. Like for example, for me, when I started going into menopause, and I was doing 3 classes at 24 Fitness and gaining weight, and I'm like, why am I gaining weight? I'm putting all this work in it. Well, I come to find out, when women who are pretty much over 40, we are losing muscle mass fast. Yeah. And doing all of that.
It actually starts as early as 30.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yeah. And doing cardio, it used to be I could do cardio and drop my weight like that.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, cardio is just because you're burning. What's happening is you're just burning, and fat doesn't burn as well as muscle. So when you have muscle, and I like this analogy, when you build muscle, your body is burning fat while you sleep. So, you know, if you have more muscle, you can keep your weight down. So the goal is not necessarily to do more cardio, which is what I've always done.
Right. Yeah.
Now I had to flip it, and now I have to do more strength training. building muscle because I'm losing muscle and I don't want to lose it. So when I was training for the pageant and then for the fitness competition, I was trying to gain all this muscle mass, you know. I don't need that anymore. I'm not trying to gain, and you know, I just want to keep what I have.
Yes,
I don't want to lose what I have.
But you didn't. So the mindset of, you know, women especially, you know, we're so anti-lifting, right? Because you think about, oh my God, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to bulk up, I'm going to look.
And that's what we need.
Yeah. And
that's
even at your height, you know, when you won your fitness award, it wasn't, you know, you said it very well, and it's nice that we can move it back in because you said you were chiseled in certain things, right? Like you could tell that you had been putting in the work, but it wasn't like you were bulked up.
Yeah.
Just up there on steroids, right?
Right, because you don't want that.
No. That's definitely not out there.
But I always said I wanted Angela Bassett arms. And when I looked at those pictures, I have my Angela Bassett arms, and they're going away. So you have to keep doing something. So I need my Angela Bassett arms back.
Oh, that's so funny. That is your goal. That's your goal for 2023. Was there anything, Sylvia? Our time always goes by together. I think there was one point where we brought coffee together, and it was like 3 hours later. We're like, oh my gosh, was it 3 hours later? So we've been going at it for a little while. But was there something that I didn't touch on around the health journey that you've gone through, experiences that you've had, or anything in particular you wanted others to maybe know that we can mention right now to them?
Well, I would say, you know, it's not an easy thing. Like sit here and some people may say, well, it might be easy for you. No, it's not. I can share and be transparent. A lot of times I don't feel like it. Like even now, I'm at a point in my life where I had gotten hurt. I got hurt in my shoulders and I had to step back. And so now I'm trying to get back into it. And it is like turning an ocean liner around. It is hard. And the battlefield is in the mind. That's where your battle is. And you are your worst enemy. And if I can encourage someone else, you just have to keep self-talk. Because speaking for myself, I constantly have to say, you can do this. Get up. You know, just take one step. Just get started. Because
that's always the hardest part.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah.
And your body, you're tired, you don't want to do it. But if you look at on the other side, if I do it, and every time I get up and do my exercises, I feel better. But it's that battle that I'm going in my head, and you know, you feel like you're crazy because you got the negative you and the positive you, and you're fighting
constantly.
And that is life's battle, period. I mean, when you talk about depression and you talk about, you know, sadness, that battle is here. And that's where you have to fight, you know, and with everything that you do, you just have to fight. And you have to fight in your head. And I would say that is my battle, and I can share that because I know people probably don't think I have that battle, but I do every day.
I think that's just, you know, part of being alive, right? Like, do you want to be alive or do you not? Like, are you gonna have the choice to get up and, you know, make it through it, or are you willing to just lie down and let it get to you? And it's hard because, you know, we talk about this just a little openly, but there are other people that are in a different place, right? Like mentally, as you're touching on depression, I mean, that is a real situation that they feel, and it's a real battle for them to even try and think outside of what they're
and
going
sometimes you just need to have you need counseling, or sometimes you need medication, because sometimes it's just too overwhelming. But knowing and understanding and asking for help is real important. And there's no shame in saying, hey, I'm drowning, I need help. And I've been there. I've sought counseling before, and to get out of some deep holes that I was in that I could not get out myself.
Right.
And
well, yeah, you need that outsider perspective, right? Someone else that's not in there.
Someone else to pull you out.
Yeah. So if people wanted to follow up with you about aging gracefully, your health journey, or any of the other efforts that you're helping out with, can they find you on social media? What are some of the ways that they can connect with you?
They can find me on social media, Mrs. Colorado 2022,
Okay.
and I have a couple, and then I have Beauty Run Skin Deep, and then I'm also on Facebook with Sylvia Waller.
Awesome.
So, and I usually will feed those. I feed mostly the Mrs. Colorado 2022 because that's where I am right now.
Yeah.
And then this whole social media thing is new for me, so I don't know
You're
how to
getting
connect.
better and better, I tell you. You've been throwing out reels, and I'm like, just getting on the trend.
My kids are like, Mom, you threw a reel. I didn't know you knew how to do that.
That's so funny. That is awesome. Well, please feel free to connect with Sylvia. Thank you all for tuning in. If you are just now joining us, please make sure that you rewind, rewatch. We always like comments, even if they're after the show, and we can get those to our guests. We have Sylvia Waller with us today, Mrs. Colorado for 2022, and she holds this reign until April 8th.
April 8th. Who will be the next Mrs. Colorado?
Next Mrs. Colorado. Engage with Sylvia. She's on Instagram. She's on Facebook. Again, thank you guys for watching this. This is a newer segment of ours. Health and Wealth. We'll be balancing folks that come in and talk to us about health and wellness and what that looks like. And then with wealth, about some of those entrepreneurs that are out there, people that are have that mindset of financial freedom and sustainability in your overall life. So we've got some awesome different speakers lined up all the way into February. Join us next week. So next Friday we'll have Mackenzie. She is the regional vice president of a plant-based company, and if you want a natural way of feeling like you are on speed or cocaine, tune in next week. I don't know how that girl is just constantly going, but her energy level is through the roof, and it is through this healthy approach to living that she takes. So we'll be back. I know. I'm so excited to have her on here. On January the 20th, again at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, we'll be on here with Mackenzie. I am your host for today, Juliet Abdel, and I hope you guys have a very blessed, very fun, and exciting weekend, and we'll see you next week.